to introduce our moderator, Daniel Pate, Director of Engagement for North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Heather. Great to be here. And thanks everyone for attending this panel titled Health, Comfort, and Affordability, a primer on residential energy efficiency. And we got a couple great speakers for you today where we are going to learn more about high impact and low cost steps that you can take to improve your home's energy efficiency. And I'm going to kick it off with just a few slides to give a general idea of the type of energy efficiency options that potentially could be available to you, as there are a lot of good programs out there that are offered by utilities, state agencies. So you may know some of these already, some of them you might not. So I am going to get into that a little bit before we get to the good stuff with Johnathan. So I am going to try and share my screen here, if you just bear with me. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. Can everyone see that screen? Is that a yes? Okay. Well, first I wanted to kick it off with just a few general energy use statistics. Just general rule of thumb is that a typical home in the United States spends about 3%, 3 to 4% of their income on home energy bills. Now, obviously, there are a lot of homes where it can be much higher than this. And, when we get to more of the 6% and 10% of income range, then we're really looking at what's called energy burden. And obviously, the higher the percentage of income that is spent, the higher the energy burden is. In fact, a stat from the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy says that 1 in 4 low-income households in the country spend more than 15% of their income on energy bills. So that's just to say that there really is a big need for programs that can help these homes that are facing really high energy bills and just homes that are super inefficient and really need this type of work. And one of the key issues that you typically see in a home, and Johnathan will speak more to this, is air leakage. You'll typically see leakage around windows and doors, at attic access points, around ductwork, around electrical outlets. And generally, based on what I've heard and some research, it's fair to say that the typical air leakage in the US is equivalent to leaving a medium-sized window open all year. Also in North Carolina, peak energy usage season can vary because the topography in North Carolina obviously varies, but we're looking at, if you're by the coast, for peak energy usage to be in July and August when it's hot. And then if you're more in the mountains, we're looking at January, February when it's cold. But obviously, both of these seasons can involve really high energy usage for anywhere in the state because it can get very cold and very hot pretty much all over the state. So this is just to kind of bifurcate that when you're looking at improvements to do in your home, they can be divided based on some more low-hanging fruit, kind of easier stuff you can do on your own, but also there is work that is more technical that is best left to a professional home building contractor. So I have some examples here that show you some easier things you can do on your own, particularly just being cognizant of your thermostat and setting it lower when it's colder and higher when it's warmer, particularly when you're out of the house and not really needing to use the HVAC, which is one of the most energy intensive appliances at the home. You could also do some switching out of some appliances, particularly switching out inefficient incandescent bulbs to more efficient light emitting diode or LED light bulbs that can save a lot of energy compared to incandescent. You can also install high efficiency shower heads as well as changing out your HVAC filter regularly. And then you'll see also here some examples of work that's probably best for a contractor to do, and particularly inspecting the HVAC and doing work that's kind of out of sight and behind the walls, like duct work and installing insulation. So to get to the programs that are offered externally by your utility or by a state agency, this is a list of just to provide you a sense of what's out there, particularly if you're a Duke Energy customer. Now, I'm not going to go into each of these programs. I think the slides will be shared out afterwards, so you can look more at the slide then. But this just gives you an idea that there are offerings that do a variety of things. Here you see that there's a program that provides rebates, another one where they will send out a contractor to your home to do a home energy assessment. Also, there are demand response programs where you can give the utility permission to access your thermostat and they give you a bill credit. I'll also point out that a caveat is that some of these programs do have qualifications and requirements. Some are income qualified. You have to have a certain income to be eligible. And also some of these programs are targeted geographically. So they're only in certain areas for now until they're rolled out to other areas of the state. So I encourage you, if you're a Duke Energy customer, to visit the website and also just look into your account to see what's available. If you're not served by Duke Energy, say you're served by an electric cooperative or a municipal-owned utility, a lot of utilities offer rebates and free energy assessments. So I encourage you to just visit the website of your utility to see what is available. And then also, I did want to raise awareness of this program that's currently being rolled out by the state agency DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality. This is a program that is using federal funding to provide rebates for residential energy efficiency upgrades and appliances that can really reduce your energy bill. It involves two programs, the Homes and Here program. The Homes program involves rebates for improvements such as insulation, air sealing, heating and cooling upgrades. And then the Here program helps install, it involves contractors coming in to install new equipment and upgrades such as electric panels, wiring, and insulation. I will say that eligibility for these programs are based on income. I think you have to be at, I think it's 150% of average medium income or lower to participate. But I encourage you to visit the website and you can find out more details there. And I'll also note that this program is still being rolled out, so it hasn't hit some of the more populous counties yet. It's starting in the smaller counties and making their way from there. But if you go to that website, then you can see a map where it tells you when you should, the anticipation date or the projected dates for when the program will roll out to each county. So I will stop sharing my screen, and now without further ado, I will pass it over to Johnathan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Johnathan Gach, like Bach, but with a G. I'm a small business owner in Asheville, North Carolina, called the building science detectives. It's the result of a lifelong obsession turned profession with trying to understand how buildings work. And we're referred to in different ways by different use cases and industries. But what my profession means to me is that I have an intimate understanding of how buildings manage heat and moisture. And so if you think about the many reasons that we build, probably the most important of which is that we're trying to create an environment different from the outside. And in order to do that, we seek out controlling moisture and heat. And as the performance of our buildings increase, so does the complexity. So we work with a lot of clients to focus on diagnosing the cause of issues through informed observation and diagnostics to address the cause of problems and avoid managing the symptoms. I have experience in solar industry, HVAC industry, utility energy efficiency programs. And one of the most rewarding parts of this work is involvement in existing homes to weatherize them. And so today's presentation is focused on existing homes, which is a similar approach to new construction, but we're going to follow just an order of priority to help everyone see the path that under ideal circumstances is taken to optimize a home's performance. And so when we talk about home performance, the end result, fortunately, is reduced utility expense. But what a lot of people are most motivated about is comfort, indoor air quality, durability, and then the affordability that comes with those improvements. Everybody got my screen?
Yes, we see it.
This is something called the Energy Upgrade Pyramid. And you can find different ones online. And you can see that it's ranked in importance at the bottom and complexity and investment as we go up. And something that catches a lot of people's attention is that renewables is the last thing and basic understanding is the first. So we have to look at our homes as a system, and when we make a change, how that impacts other aspects of the home. There are different types of building methods and materials, and it helps us to have a basic understanding of how these systems function before we start making changes. The focus on home performance is establishing a continuous building envelope that involves water, air, and heat control. And we're looking to ensure that those three layers are continuous and parallel. And that allows us to reduce our heating and cooling load. Since heating and cooling is the majority of the typical home's expense, a lot of these strategies are based around reducing heating and cooling runtime and improving comfort. And you'll start to see how these impacts have layered and compounding benefits that encompass the whole subject of home performance. So it's really important to know where your home stands. We have a lot of information about appliance efficiency or miles per gallon for your car, but really seeing how does your house compare to someone else's isn't straightforward, because there's a lot of variables in location, orientation to the sun, shading, wind, occupants, and something that professionals look at is something called energy use intensity. How many kilowatt hours does that home use per square foot? And there's even more technical things like weather normalizing to be able to compare your home year after year by isolating changes in the weather to see if you're making baseline improvements. So just getting your power bills and starting to look at trends is a really good way to get started. Are you in a cooling climate or a heating climate? What time of year do you have the biggest utility expense? And that can help you focus on a strategy to focus on reducing your peak load. So energy auditors and building science professionals use diagnostic tools like a blower door to quantify and to some extent locate the undesirable air leakage in your home. And we might have all grown up with the idea that homes need to breathe. And it turns out that the better a home breathes, the less the occupants breathe well. And that's because a home that breathes lacks the ability to control how much, when, and where that breath is coming from. And it turns out that a lot of homes that breathe exchange air with places that we least want to have air coming from, like our attic and our crawl space that have contaminants, uncontrolled humidity and temperature. So the approach to new homes is to seal it tight and ventilate it right. And that's to say that you can't have a home that's too tight. You can only have a home that's underventilated. And when we introduce controlled ventilation, we get to decide how the home breathes. So blower doors, duct leakage tests help us evaluate a home, also with things like infrared imagery to locate moisture and insulation issues. Something that is helpful is to understand if what your house does the best. When we first started building homes, or say not first started building homes, but 50 years ago, we had something called a class 1 building envelope. It just focused on keeping the house dry. And then we introduced insulation, which kept the house dry and warmer. Now we have a class 3 building envelope that incorporates an air boundary. So you can think about a nice fluffy jacket made from knit, and it keeps you really warm until the wind blows. So we have to focus not just on insulation, but also air sealing, for the reason that the majority of a home's heat loss is not through conduction, where heat is transferring through a solid material. It's when air moves, and it carries the most amount of energy. These first foundations of the pyramid, after your understanding, have lost some momentum because of the accomplishments we've made and choices for our home. It's relatively uncommon these days to have anything but LEDs, but you can make selections about where LEDs are a good fit. In my experience and some increasing knowledge from the medical community about the quality of LED lighting. So I just use my discretion and where I want to focus on quality of light and efficiency. And I'll pause there for a moment to impress the importance between efficiency and conservation. So a Prius is really efficient at getting you to the grocery store, or more efficient, but conservation would be going to the grocery store less often. So an LED light is more efficient, and the best thing to do is turn the lights off when you're not using them. So you can see that one is related to a technology, and conservation is more related to behavior. And behavior is just the easiest thing to do before you get high performance heating and cooling equipment, is to learn how to control your thermostat to maintain comfort and reduce runtime. So a lot of our perception of discomfort is hard to discern because our body experiences heat and cold in distinctly different ways. Air movement across your skin, the warmth of a sun, despite it being a cold day. And so these phenomena are taking place in your home. And a lot of times we have the perception that windows need to be replaced. So because of the cold surface temperature of the glass. But it turns out, or a leaky door, but it turns out the majority of a home's energy loss takes place at the ceiling between a room and the attic, and at the floor between a room and a crawl space or an unconditioned basement. And so you can think of this in the way that when you blow air into a flute, the majority of the air moves in the mouthpiece and out the tailpiece, and that's the attic and the floor. And the keys on the flute, which are the important part of the flute, but they only release a little bit of the air. And so the keys on the flute are like the windows and doors on your home that get a disproportionate or have a perception of being a source of a home's energy loss, and overlooking the major areas, which is the ceiling and the floor. So like windows and doors on average account for something like 10 to 15% of a home's energy loss. And those leaks are where you're more likely to get healthy fresh air from the outside, where the majority of your leaking is taking place at the attic and the floor, and that's the unhealthy. So we look at air sealing places like top plates and rim joists, crawl spaces, encapsulating our crawl spaces. And so there's this industry term for the rate of leakage in a home, air changes per hour at a standardized test pressure that a diagnostic technician would use as a baseline for making improvements to your home. And this slide is important. Insulation and ventilation working as a pair, so that as we increase the tightness of our home, we've got fresh air. And also that when we insulate a ceiling with, I'm going to throw numbers out that aren't based on any calculations, but let's say you add 20 inches of insulation to your attic without air sealing, it might have been better to add 10 inches and air seal. And air sealing benefits are cumulative. So the more we air seal, the better off we are. Insulation benefits are really only achieved when done comprehensively. So having a gap in your insulation, an attic with 30 inches of of insulation, but you have a skylight, and that skylight is open to the sky and can suck heat out of your house towards space with radiant heat, is like having a hole in a bucket. And so instead of dumping more comfort into your home, we should be looking at how to address the cause of the problem. So before you figure out how to get more water in the bucket, you try to plug the hole. So as you're going around, perhaps DIY style air sealing benefits are cumulative. But if you're going to insulate, sometimes that's better for a qualified tradesperson, because it's not as worth doing unless it's done well. Appliances have also lost some attention in recent years because of the prevalence of energy efficient dryers and refrigerators. And it's always helpful to pick Energy Star. There's a really a lot of attention given to heat pump water heaters. And this is a place where it's helpful to make informed decisions about increasing the performance of your home versus the complexity. And so there are places and times when a heat pump water, despite its efficiency, might not be the best fit, like small closets. And as these systems get more efficient in their complexity, they also require maintenance. So that's something to keep in mind. Having a right-sized mechanical system is so important for not just your comfort, but the durability and efficiency of it. There are lots of issues that come from improper airflow, improperly sized ducts, oversized air conditioning doesn't run long enough to sometimes pull out moisture. So windows are a little bit of a sensitive spot for me, because it's common for a lot of well-intended homeowners to seek out window replacement as the solution for high utility bills or discomfort. And certainly when it comes to new construction, it's just like buying a tool. You're obligated to get the nicest tool you can afford. And when you're building a new home, you're obligated to get the nicest window you can afford. But if you really wanted to resolve an underperforming window in an existing home, rather than replacing it, addressing leakage would be the most cost-effective approach. So I always say that there's 3 good reasons to replace windows: security, maybe, aesthetics, and the best reason of all, because you felt like it. But as a strategic return on investment to improve your home's performance, the best thing to do would be to get rid of the window, because that's a hole in your house. But a lot of us aren't going to do that. So improving an existing window is preferred over replacing them from a return on investment standpoint. And if you want to get new windows, that's the best reason. Just like we like to get new countertops and update our paint colors. So working in the renewables industry for several years, I made observations about installs on underperforming homes. And I said, well, wait a second. You wouldn't take your car to the shop and let them install a new engine if your tire was flat. So that emphasizes the importance of following this ideal order of priority and improving home performance. and saving energy production for the last step, with the first steps being reducing your demand. So solar installation on an inefficient home went towards the expense of generating electricity that's going to undeserving loads. Similarly to my reasoning for windows, there are reasons to get solar panels out of order, and that could be tax liability, utilizing tax credits, a demonstration to your community of an outwardly visible thing that you can see from the street. But my favorite reason to get solar is because you felt like it. But just remember that it's not, it's the last thing if you're focusing on return on investment. So we've got some outdated codes in North Carolina, and just remember that building to code is like achieving the government's minimum expectations. And so striving to build above code and pursue Energy Star, Green Built Home certifications. There aren't a lot of programs that help certify and organize improvements for existing homes. I'm going to take some questions, so I've got time to hand off to Brad.
Thanks, Jonathan, for that helpful information and helping us learn how the home uses energy and steps that we can take to improve the home. I encourage folks to put any questions in the Q&A box. I don't think I see any yet, so I'm going to give you a question, Jonathan. Can you give us your input on, say there's someone where they feel like they have high bills and an inefficient home, but they're just not sure what to do. Like what is the first step they can take in just like learning about what to do next with their home?
I think taking a online survey, I can't think of the name now, but there have been some really good ones over the years that are like a self-guided energy audit. And so it will take inputs like the location, age of your home, size, and help you learn more about unique features of your home. There's some really interesting things that have come up over the year with high power bills, like there was a leak in the well pump, and so they didn't have loss of pressure, but they had a well pump that was running all the time. And so getting prompted to put that information in can help you think about things that are out of sight and out of mind.
Great. And if you have any recommended links to online audits to share out afterwards, that would be great, and that could be a resource.
I don't have any on hand. I'm out of date on those.
Okay. Well, I encourage folks to just look around online and see if you can find any good online audit resources. I am seeing a couple questions come in. One from Kelly. Do you have an energy guilty pleasure? For example, do you prefer your old washing machine just because it works and cleans better than the previous one? Interesting question.
I have a washing machine that has an EPA opt-out button. and it lets me fill up the tank as much as I want with as much hot water as I want. And my wife likes that because I think some of us are getting a little fatigued with high efficiency washers. I also like to set my thermostat on what makes me comfortable. There's a lot of effort that goes in to the improvements that I've made to my home that let me keep that one as a little guilty pleasure. I take long hot showers, but I also have a monitoring system on my home that I look at like some people look at their bank account, that just satisfies curiosity about how everything's working. So for me, it's about affording informed decision making. There are things in life that we get enjoyment from, things in life that we have control over, and things in life that we don't have control over. And so sometimes I use that matrices to decide what things I'm going to focus my attention on.
Well, you heard it here, everyone. Even Johnathan has some energy guilty pleasures. Let's get to one more, and then we're going to turn it over to Brad. Jerry asked about any tax incentives available before they expire. Jerry, I don't know if you were on at the beginning. We touched a little bit on like Duke Energy and utility programs that are available, and also the program Energy Saver NC administered by the state that's doing a statewide rollout of a program using federal funding to provide rebates. So I encourage checking out the Energy Saver NC website. But anything else that comes to mind for you, Johnathan, incentives wise?
I can just quickly answer these. Windows leaking, it depends what kind of windows you have, but I like something called rope caulk because you can use it on any window to seal gaps seasonally. And then if you're not in the room, then nobody's using the light and you should turn it off.
All right. Well, we're going to move over now to Brad Rouse. Thanks, Johnathan, for your presentation, and we may have more questions for you following Brad's presentation. But for now, Brad Rouse, Executive Director of Energy Savers Network, he is going to talk about his program out in Western North Carolina that has been very successful and potentially something that could be replicated in other areas of the state. So, Brad, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, and can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
I'll take that as a yes. And I am calling from my car because I've had a combination of errors today in terms of my computer going down, and then but anyway, so I'm calling from my car, but you can see it's a Tesla, so I guess that's my guilty pleasure is being able to or still having a Tesla. But thanks, Johnathan, and thanks, Daniel, for inviting me. And I have been involved in energy since, for my whole career. This is sort of my third version of it as executive director and co-founder of Energy Savers Network. And I would just start by saying that, our whole reason for being is that something called the energy burden is very real for low-income people. It's not unusual for us to see people with a $3,000 annual Duke bill or overall energy bill on $20,000 to $30,000 in income in North Carolina, and it's just very, very difficult for those people to live. So this all started though with just the idea that we weren't really doing enough, and that while there were ways, as I discovered back about 10 years ago, that lower income people could get help with their energy bills, that they were not going anywhere near the demand or the need. For example, in Buncombe County, the people who were doing this sort of thing were doing maybe 30 or 40 homes a year, and yet there are over 20,000 people in Buncombe County that could use that kind of help. So the need is, and opening up 1, 2, or 3 different channels of service to these people was, I think, all to the good, and kind of everybody agrees to that. So 10 years or so, 12 years or so, I had educated myself on energy efficiency, everything that I could do in my own home. A lot of the things Johnathan talks about, I hired a professional to come in and do the blower door test and the analysis, and did a lot and got my energy bill way down, and then added solar. And I was really looking around for some other way to make a difference, and some other way to do this work. And through my wife's volunteer work at the time, going into the homes of low-income people, I would go with her, and we would a lot of times write a check from a charity to the homeowner. I mean, to the power company. And yet, when I was in the homes, I could just look, because I'd been so interested in energy efficiency all my life. I could just look and see holes in the wall or holes in the floor, and I knew that there would be ways to help these people. So I started a volunteer-based program out of my church, to go go around and help people in the community save on energy costs. And so that's what we did. And I've been doing it really for the last 12 years. Moved to Asheville 10 years ago, started a program to do work in Asheville, and founded Energy Savers Network. And Energy Savers Network is an approach. It's another channel for low-income people to get help, besides the Energy Saver NC program you mentioned now, but also the community action networks that have been doing this work since the 60s. And I found one of the things I found by starting off and doing this all as a volunteer work, that there were people that shared my vision. I think in every community, there's people that have been involved in this energy efficiency work and also see that there's a need to do more and want to do more. And one way to do more is to help your low income neighbor in some way. And so we started Energy Savers Network, and it's really kind of grown dramatically. And I know we had Johnathan as a consultant for a while in all of this effort, but since our founding, we've helped over 1,500 families. And in our initial work, we did that work based on just common sense things that we could do, and also energy education. And we would come into a home and do some projects to seal some of the leaks. We didn't use a blower door. We didn't do it scientifically, but a lot has changed. And we've greatly expanded the scope of that work over the last several years, so that, for example, last month, through our leveraging of the Duke programs, we helped about 20 families. We helped 20 families, but overall, we were able to do $160,000 worth of upgrades in just Buncombe and Henderson counties to in 1 month. So it's really a significant amount of work. If we can continue this for a number of years, I think we will start to make a real impact in terms of the degree of a problem. But basically, the way we do the work, and the way we've always done the work, it starts with an initial home visit. Well, it starts with some phone calls. We get a client from a variety of places in the community, churches or community organizations, social services. United Way, they will recommend or refer people to us. We also have people that are referrals from other clients. And then lately, Duke Energy, we've become a Duke Energy weatherization services provider, and Duke has been sending us names of people that are pre-qualified, that they want us to see if we can't serve them. And a lot of times we just send an email out to that list, and we get enough responses to keep us busy for a month. But the basic core of what we do is we have an assessor who's got some building science skills, comes in, say 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, does a work day, and figures out what that home needs to get. And then our volunteers come in, say at 11 o'clock. The blower door test will be going on. We'll figure out how leaky the house is. We'll identify opportunities to do air sealing, as Johnathan mentioned, paying special attention to the floor or the crawl space, paying special attention to any penetrations into the attic. We will fix leaks in the walls. We'll do weather stripping. We'll, of course, do the things like low flow water shower heads and LED lights and a variety of things like that. So that is a sort of what we've always done. That's our initial work. Now what we're doing and trying to get this done by 12:50, so I know we have limited time, but now what we do is to expand on that. That initial visit serves as a bridge to much greater upgrades that, by virtue of being part of the Duke program, we're able to bring to these people that we do this initial work for. Now, I will tell you that initial work, we did a study 3 years ago. Vandemuster and Associates did a study. They estimated that that initial visit with one assessor, maybe two professionals, and 4 or 5 volunteers, 3 or 4 volunteers, saves about 15% a year on the utility bill. But with these other upgrades, we're able to get over 50% sometimes in terms of the savings, because what we do is we'll identify needs for basic home repairs that could be things like health and safety home repairs, fixing other things up to $5,000. We identify opportunities for insulation. We identify opportunities for heat pump water heaters that Johnathan mentioned. We identify opportunities for, and a lot of people have basic electric strip heat of some kind, and so we're able to get a heat pump in there. Sometimes the heat pump is on its last legs, and we're able to replace an old heat pump. And so those kind of things are, that's what drives the dollars up. But by virtue of us getting on with this Duke program, we're able to take advantage of those dollars and provide a much greater degree of upgrades for our clients. Basically that's the program. Like I said, we did 160,000 in August. We want to do this much more extensively down the road. I also would add that part of our effort is energy education. So we talk about the building envelope, we talk about the thermostat setting, we talk about the loads that are the things that Johnathan talked about. We talk about water heater temp. We talk about how long people take showers sometimes. We talk about using cold water and washing. We talk about turning down the water heater temperature. We talk about when you're washing your hands, to wash your hands in cold water, because hot water won't even get to your hands by the time you're finished washing your hands. We're talking about drying clothes on a dryer. So all those behavioral changes are part of, and I don't, it's hard to say that 15% didn't include behavioral changes, and those can be extremely. Sometimes we find people that keep their temperature, and they're paying a huge percentage of their income. They're keeping their temperature at 71 degrees all year long, which is extremely difficult. So we have a lot of experience with low-income people. I would just invite people to visit our website, energysaversnetwork.org. Look us up on Facebook. Come to Asheville and enjoy our wonderful breweries and all of our tourist attractions, and take an extra day and volunteer with Energy Savers Network. You can do that online, sign up, and you can see what we're doing out here in Western North Carolina. And I'm going to pass it back to Daniel. I think my time is up. If we got time for questions, we can take them, but I think maybe we want to do it after I'm done, or after the next section.
Thanks, Brad. And thanks so much for telling that story. It's just a super compelling approach, using volunteers, and also the emphasis on education, I think, should always be a critical component of an energy program like that. And just great to hear from you just how much need there is from the low income point of things. There are programs out there that target that need, such as state weatherization programs, and some utility programs serve low to moderate income homes as well. But like I mentioned earlier, the demand is always higher than the need, and issues always come up, such as health and safety or structural issues of a home, where it pushes the energy efficiency work even further down the road until the health and safety issues are addressed. So that's a whole nother conversation that we could go into. But also encourage folks to check out the link that was shared out in the chat to a Canary Media article that recently focused on this very program. And I believe that Brad was interviewed in it. So That was also a really good write-up by Elizabeth Oots spotlighting that program and the impact it's having. And you heard the call to action from Brad as well. Go out to Asheville and have fun in Asheville, support the local businesses, and even volunteer at Energy Savers Network. So thanks so much, Brad. I think we got a minute or two. I'll see if there are any questions. One question is, how do tourists see how to visit?
Well, I'm not going to tell you how to come to Asheville on Expedia. You can get a hotel and come, but if you want to volunteer for Energy Savers Network, just go to www.energysaversnetwork.org, click on the button to volunteer, sign up to volunteer. There's a little video, and there's a calendar where you can see our work. We try to do work days Tuesday through Friday. Sometimes we do Saturdays, where we're planning to, but Tuesday through Friday, you can find a day to volunteer, and it's usually about a 4 or 5 hour shift. So just encourage you to come out and see what we're doing and volunteer and help out for an afternoon, or more. It's like 11 to 4. I mean, who can't do 11 to 4? So we'd love to see you. And I'm Brad at energysaversnetwork.org. So you're free to send me an email and tell me you're coming.
Great. Well, I think that is it for questions for now. And I think we are at time anyway. So thanks so much, Brad and Johnathan, for being gracious with your time. I know you're all busy, but this is obviously super helpful and important information to help folks know what they can do to improve their home's energy usage. So I hope you all who attended this panel took away a lot of information, and we're happy to answer any follow-up questions via email following this panel. So Heather, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Johnathan and Brad. That was such great information, and I thank you for the practical tips and takeaways. The energy guilty pleasure question was a great one, and like Johnathan, I also like hot showers, and I also feel like being informed of the things that I can do, and the next steps are is so important.